Do you want your thumbnail to look like this or this? In this video, I'm going to show you the best way to make a Minecraft thumbnail, and I'll be making one as well so you can get a feel for everything.
First up, the apps, or well, app. You'll need to install Minimator by using the link in the description for the most up-to-date version. Download this file from the Github and extract it. Then open up Minimator and hit create new project. Here, name it something like thumbnail or my first thumbnail. The first thing we need to do here is enable advanced mode. Click the word that says simple mode enabled and enable it. If you get asked for a key, simply follow the steps, either choose to donate or not, then paste in the key. Now the fun part, let's start by importing a world. If you play from the Minecraft launcher, you can simply click this drop down and choose a world, then skip to this timestamp. And if you use Modrinth or CurseForge, follow along. If you're still here, you're using a mod loader. First, head to your saves folder by heading to your mod pack, clicking on the 3 dots, then clicking open folder. In your files, head to saves and copy one with Ctrl+C. Then go back to Minimator, click on file at the top left, click on the import from world option and press the folder button. Here, paste your folder with Ctrl+V and double click on it, then scroll down to find the level.dat file. Double click on it and you should have your world. Next, we need to select what part of the world should be imported. Left click on any part of the world and left click anywhere else to make a box. You can extend each side of the box by holding left click and pulling on the side to either extend or shrink it. If you need to change the bottom of the box, hold right click and move around with WASD, as well as shift to move slower and space to move faster. Once you selected your desired area, click on the import selection button and wait for it to import. Finally, we can actually start making the thumbnail. First, you want to figure out how your thumbnail will actually look. Do you want a player electromacing someone facing a giant castle, or something else? Depending on what it is, find a good spot where you can visualize where to put the players in your scene. One thing I forgot to mention in the script is removing the clouds. You can go over to the right click environment, then either turn off or raise the height of the clouds. You can move the camera using the same controls as before when you imported your world. Now click the crafting table on the left and add a camera by clicking on camera, then clicking on create, and it'll automatically be placed where you're looking. Now you can move yourself around while the box on the bottom right stays the same. Finally, set your camera to FOV 30 and adjust the position by moving around the same way as you did before, only using the small box on the right instead. We'll get back to the camera later. Next, we need to add your players. I'll start by adding a player here, as I want to make one where somebody maces somebody else as they're falling. First, click on the crafting table and click on player. You can either choose to type in a username for the skin, or you can upload one yourself. Choose if it's either wide or slim, then add it to the scene. Place your players somewhere in the world, then you can select each body part and move them around. When modeling your player, make sure your timeline cursor is at the start, as each movement creates a keyframe and it might mess something else up otherwise. You can change modes by clicking on these options on the side, either being able to move, rotate or bend the body parts, or by clicking their respective keybinds, which you can see by hovering over the button. Let's start by changing the pose of the player. When selecting each part, make sure to click it twice in order to actually select the body part, otherwise you might accidentally move the whole character. Now let's look at the second main step, a quick tip on how to pose your player to look natural. Make sure to exaggerate any motions that are the main focus and do the opposite to anything that isn't. You also want to make sure your player is facing either the other subject or the camera. Never leave it disconnected. As well as this, make sure to move every one of your character's limbs, including their legs, as everything adds motion and character to your thumbnail. Once you finish this step, you should either choose if you want your player to follow the rule of thirds or if you want them in the center. If you don't know what the rule of thirds is, search it up. If you do, you can click this button to activate the thirds grid and align your player. Once you've done this, you can start on. To add and pose your second player, repeat the steps for what you did for the first, making sure to have your characters looking at each other or having the second player in the back big enough to see. If you're making a thumbnail similar to mine, keep the second player closer to the camera, though further off to the side, as this will be important soon. One of the best tricks I've learnt making thumbnails is that having a setting at nighttime or when it's dark is amazing, as you can add specific lighting that targets the main characters. To set your scene tonight, click on environment, then turn the time slider until it's midnight or any other nighttime you'd like. Next, head to the crafting table and add a light. You can change the light settings to make it stronger, be visible from further away, change the color or anything else. Move your light to illuminate your main character's face and body, leaving the second layer shadow to draw less attention to them on the thumbnail. Once you're done making the lighting, we can start on camera effects. The first effect you want to give your thumbnail is depth of field. This makes the background of your image blurry, and as you'll see, the foreground as well. Start by clicking on the camera, then turning on the depth of field option. Here, you want to configure these settings until you have something like this, when the environment behind your main character is blurry and the second character is also blurry. The depth option determines how far out the blur starts. The focus range determines how large the unblurred distance is. The fade size determines the fade distance between unblurred and completely blurred, and the blur size determines how blurred it actually is. Next, we can move on to chromatic aberration. But before we do that, don't you want your players to be a little more powerful looking? Let's add some armor and weapons. To add your armor, start by clicking on the crafting table, go to the special block section and search for armor. Here you can open the armor editor and customize it however you'd like. Make it netherite, add trims, whatever you want. We'll add the enchanting glint soon. Place it anywhere in your world, then go to the bottom timeline here and click the armor, then drag it onto the character you want. Once you've done that, it will appear on your character and disappear in the timeline. Right now it looks a little strange. Open up the menu with the arrow, then select the armor and head over to the right. If you enabled advanced mode at the start, you'll be able to find a button that says pose. Check it and suddenly your armor snaps onto the player. You can do the same with your second character. Now for the items. We do a similar process, head to the crafting table, go to the item and find whatever item you want your player to hold. Select it and click create. Then click on your item in the timeline and drag it onto whichever hand you want your player to hold it with. I'll choose my left hand. You'll notice the item cuts into your player's arm, and we can fix this by holding control while rotating the item in order to snap it to certain degrees, such as 90, which is where we want it. Alternatively, you can click this button up the top to snap everything. Once you've rotated your item, head over to the side and link the scale factors, allowing you to scale it faster. I usually set my items at 0.75 as it looks the most vanilla, but you can set it at whatever you want. Now you can position your item in line with your character's arm, and now if you reposition their arm, you'll notice the item and the armor moves along with it. Let's quickly add an enchanting glint before we go back to the camera. To add an enchanting glint to your armor and weapons, select the armor or item you want to add the glint to, go to appearance on the right, then either select armor or item depending on what you're adding it to. Here you can change the strength and scale of the glint. Now we can go back to the camera settings. Let's start by adding some chromatic aberration. Now you don't need to do this, but it will make your scene look like it has more motion and look more exciting. To add chromatic aberration, select your camera and turn on the chromatic aberration option. Then you can change your red, blue and green offset. The more different the numbers are, the more it will change. You can see the effect in the camera viewport. To complement this, we can distort the camera as well by turning on distort. Then you can change how much you want to distort the corners. This is looking pretty cool right now, but we're not entirely done. Check your scene will actually look good by clicking this button on your camera view, turning into rendering mode and probably destroying your frame rate. If there's any shadows blocking your player or anything that looks off, make sure to fix it before we render the final thumbnail. Let's switch back to shaded mode and click render. Deselect the watermark, make sure the background is enabled, then click render. Choose where to save it. I'll just choose my downloads, then click save. If you're happy with your thumbnail, that's all I have for you. But if you truly want to make it look good, stay around as here we'll do step 3, some tricks for DaVinci Resolve. Open up DaVinci Resolve as we'll be using it to color grade and add fog effects to the scene. If you don't use DaVinci, you can color grade in a different program, but I won't be able to help you with it or adding fog. First, input your image by dragging it from your files and place it in the scene. To color grade, head to the color tab and change these sliders until your image looks how you want it, being more saturated for a happier feeling, lower temperature if you're making your thumbnail in a snow biome, and higher if you're in a desert. You can mess around with these settings until you've got something that doesn't look like an image that's been screenshotted 50 times. Now let's move on to fog. Head back to the edit page and click on effects, then search for a fusion composition, then drag it into your timeline, placing it at the start with your previous clip. Ensure that you place your fusion composition above the layer that you place your previous clip. If there's nothing above it, right click the empty space and click add track. Once you've placed your fusion composition, right click it and click open in fusion, or click the magic wand tab on the bottom of the window. This is the fusion screen, where you can add specific nodes that have much more freedom and possibilities than simply using the edit page. Here, press shift plus space, which will open a new window. Search up fast noise, then click add, which will add the fast noise node to your workspace. Drag the square from the fast noise onto the media out node, and it will create a line between them. Click on the fast noise node, then on the right in the inspector, if there's nothing there, click this button. Increase the detail of your noise. Then head to the color tab and change it to a more grayish color. Already you can see that it kind of looks like fog, but I'm going to decrease the contrast, decrease the brightness, and increase the scale to make it look more foggy. But you can change these settings however you'd like to fit your scene. Now back in our edit tab, we can see that the fog is covering most of the screen. Head back to the fusion tab and click on the fast noise node. Then press shift plus space to add a rectangle node. Now it should look something like this. With the rectangle selected, you can increase the soft edges and position it wherever you want on the screen in order to create a fog effect. If you go back to your edit page and the fog is too strong, you can always lower the level of the fast noise from the rectangle node, decreasing its opacity. Now this already looks much cooler. I'll do this again on the top to focus most attention to the center, but there's one more thing. I kinda want some fog behind the player to make people less focused on the background and to make me stand out more. We can do this by heading back to Minimator, then hiding everything you don't need. In this case, you should hide the world, the other player, and go to the environment tab and hide the ground as well. From here, we can render it with a transparent background and import our player into DaVinci Resolve. I'll place it between the fog and the main image, but leave a track so I can make more fog and place it there, making this one a little transparent. Finally, I'll add a vignette by going to Toolbox and adding an adjustment clip, then going back to the toolbox and adding a vignette. And we're done. Remember, you can add any extra effects you'd like. For example, I added this eye glow effect with just a simple PNG placed on top. Time to export export our final thumbnail. Put your playhead at the start and hit the right arrow once to go forward 1 frame, then press Ctrl B to cut and delete the excess clips on the right. Now when exporting, it'll only export 1 image instead of 50. Head to the far right tab and change the export mode to JPEG, choose a file location and thumbnail name, click add to queue, and then click render all, and you're done. I highly recommend you keep using Minimator for your thumbnails in the future and keep playing around with it to make anything you want. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.